Welcome to 3 and 30, a podcast to help you feel more like yourself within your motherhood. Each 30-minute episode features 3 actionable takeaways to help you become a more self-assured mom, someone who knows yourself, honors your needs, and loves your people. Listen in to feel encouraged as we learn together how to overcome overwhelm and find more magic in motherhood. I'm your host, Rachel Nielsen. I'm so glad you're here. Most of us became moms with a pretty clear picture of the kind of mother we wanted to be. Patient, warm, the kind of mom who gets down on the floor and stays curious and never raises her voice, or at least rarely. And then real life happened, and real kids happened, and somewhere between the exhaustion and the overwhelm and the moment when someone pushed every last button you had, the worst version of you showed up. You said something too sharp, or grabbed an arm too roughly, or let your frustration come out in a way that you could see immediately had landed on your child like a wound. The feeling afterward is one of the hardest feelings in motherhood. That sick feeling in your stomach, the shame spiral, the I cannot believe I just did that feeling. And for many of us, even when we desperately want to go back and repair it, the shame of the moment can feel so overwhelming that we don't know where to start, or we aren't sure what to say, or we worry that too much time has passed. The good news, and this is the whole heart of today's episode, is that repair is always available to you. You can always start fresh. Going back to your child and saying, what happened was not okay, what I did was not okay, you didn't deserve that, is not only possible, but it is one of the most powerful things you can do for your relationship with your child, and it's never too late to do it. Today, I invited Wendy Snyder to the podcast to talk about this. Wendy is a certified positive parenting educator, family life coach, and the founder of Fresh Start Family, where she has spent 15 years helping parents break the generational cycles they inherited and build something kinder and more connected in their homes. She has a brand new book out this week called Fresh Start Your Family, Powerful Parenting to Restore Peace in Your Home, and it is so good. Wendy brings 3 takeaways to our conversation today, all built around the idea that it is never too late for a fresh start. And whether you're parenting a toddler or a teenager, whether this morning was hard or this whole season has been hard, I think this conversation is going to be such a gift to you. So let's dive in. Wendy, welcome to 3 and 30. I am so excited to get to talk to you about your new book.
Thank you for having me, Rachel. I am so stoked to be here.
Well, writing a book, what an accomplishment. Truly. It's something I've wanted to do and I am intimidated to do. So whenever I see one of my friends take this on and do it so well, I'm so proud of them. I've read your advanced copy. It is an incredible book. So congratulations, truly, for this work.
Thank you, Rachel. I'm not going to lie. It does feel really good to take all of your work and all the things that you've learned. I mean, it's fun because we sit now, I speak about my husband and I, but it feels like we kind of are sitting on the mountaintop, so to speak, of parenting because we officially have an adult child. My little girl is 18 now, which is just wild. But we learned this work 15 years ago, and we started when we were in the pits, right? Like we just didn't know what to do, and we were so stressed out as parents. And now to see the culmination of all of the work, the tools get implemented in our own life and see them come to fruition with a real life human being who is now thriving in the world. And it's just so fun to sit at that place now where I can really put everything in one place, a $22, fully just so accessible item that people can really dive deep and learn these tools and strategies and this way of life in. So it does feel good. Thank you, Rachel.
And before we hit record, I said, Wendy, how are you launching a book the same month that your daughter is graduating from high school? Like, that is so much. And I loved what you told me about that. So would you share that with the listeners about kind of the timing of that whole thing?
I know that's what everyone says is like, oh my gosh, isn't that a lot? But when the publisher said, okay, when we signed the contract and he was like, okay, this is when we're thinking it'll launch, I kind of pinched myself. I'm like, are you serious? Because it is the same week that my daughter graduates from high school. And that feels so perfect to me because she is my muse. She is the reason why I'm a teacher. She is the one who humbled me when I was a young mom and decided to leave my corporate career and stay at home with my kids full time. And I thought I knew it all. And it just, yeah, she was the one who said, hey, I'm going to raise the red flag on some things that our family's doing, and we're going to learn a different way, Mom. And so here we are 15 years later, and to travel through all of these tools and seasons of learning and healing, like deep healing. If it wasn't for my daughter, I would not be who I am today. I would not be the teacher, I would not be the wife, the spouse, the person of faith. She really has been like my greatest teacher in life.
Mm.
And so to celebrate, we're actually having a combined little book launch and graduation party
Oh,
at the end of May. And I'm like, it
that's
just
so
feels
beautiful.
so, it's a weird pinch me moment.
That's so amazing. I'm so incredibly proud of you. And I love what you said about how Stella was your muse. Stella, when she was 3 and so hard and so strong willed, and you had a baby as well, you realized we've got to do something different. Something's got to change here. And that has become the basis of your book is called Fresh Start Your Family. The idea that you can always say, we got to do something different. We got to start over. We got to try again. No matter if your kid is 3 or 18, you
Yeah.
can still fresh start your family. And so I asked you to come today with 3 major takeaways about how we can fresh start some of our patterns in our parenting, some of our family culture. And I'm so excited to dive in to each of those. So do you want to just start with your first takeaway for us?
Yes. First takeaway, it is really never too late. And as you said, whether they're 3 or they're 18, I promise you it is never too late for a fresh start on the parenting cycles you were handed by your parents. So, what we mean by that is we often refer to the things that just kind of become knee jerk. Like no one had to teach you how to put a kid in timeout or raise your voice, right? Like most of us just inherited that, right? Like duh, that's what you're going to do if a kid if a kid is air quotes bad or doesn't listen, then you make sure they get a little punishment and that you make them feel bad for not behaving well. And that's what we mean by inherited parenting, hand me down tactics. And gosh, in my own life and the life of my students, they just don't work. They cause suffering. And I think when you realize that there are different ways to do things, you get to decide, would I like to put these down and kind of update your system, so to speak? So it's kind of like, if you think of our iPhones or whatever phones you use, computers too, but definitely phones, is like, can you imagine if we were still using a phone from like the 70s? Mobile devices didn't even exist back then, but
Mhm.
or even the early 2000s that was 30 years old, we would all think we're crazy, right? No, we update our systems, we update our technology as we learn, as we grow. And we've just learned so much as humanity in the last 50 years about psychology and human development. There's been so much research. I put so much research in section 4 of the book to help people really feel confident adopting grace based discipline versus punishment. And so we get to update our systems. Let's be willing and humble to see what is it that we inherited, and are we curious enough to put those things down and learn a different way?
Mm. I love those examples you gave, Wendy, because they're not like gigantic trauma that you were handed, which some are
Mm,
handed those things. Some of
true.
us have harder things that we are trying to move on from that we were handed by our parents than others. But even if you had wonderful parents, you were
Yeah.
probably still handed some ideas about discipline and different things that it's okay if you want a fresh start from those things. I love that you made that comparison with the phones, that you wouldn't just use the exact same operating system on your phone or your computer that your parents used in the 90s because technology has improved. And maybe some of the older generation would not agree that that parenting strategies have improved since their time, but that's okay if they don't
Yeah.
agree,
Yeah.
because actually, like you mentioned, there is so much more brain research now. So it's
Exactly.
it's no shade to our parents. They did the best that they could with what they had, and we can also adopt new ways of understanding parenting and raising our children based on that and get sort of that fresh start that many of us realize we might need.
Yeah, it's true. There's a whole section just right in the beginning of the book called Judgment Not Needed, Only Compassion and Courage, where I talk about what you're saying when we are not here to judge and condemn past generations. But I fully believe that I write about in that section that when we heal and learn different ways to influence other human beings with respect, dignity, and relationship, we heal past generations and we heal future generations because our parents watch us. They
Mhm.
watch us and they start to realize even in their 80s and 90s, they take notice and they start to see like, wow, it is possible to get a little human to do what you want without scaring them or dehumanizing them or forcing them, right? And so I think it's so beautiful. We're not here to judge and we're all grown up now. It is safe to choose a different way. It's not insulting to your parents.
Mhm.
It's I believe for the parents who don't have it in them to say I'm proud of you, they really are watching and they are noticing like what a strong, courageous person you've grown into.
Mhm.
I grew up in a home where I don't remember my parents saying, "I'm proud of you" much, but I will tell you that it did feel really good for my dad, who's now 84 years old. He texted me last week and he's so excited to get these books. For a long time, he was really nervous about
Mhm.
me writing this book. And he would say, Wendy, he's from the South, he's from North Carolina. And he'd say, honey, can you just wait till I die to write the book? Because he really thought I
Oh.
was going to like just rip him apart. Like, you guys spanked me and all the things. And I think he's realized as I've been writing it over the last few years and we've had conversations, it's really not what's happening for anybody who chooses to do it differently. And he texted me the other day and he's at the mailbox and he's like, I'm so excited, but the darn books aren't here yet. He's texting now, which is a big deal for my 84-year-old father. But then he sent me a picture of him and my mom at lunch and he said, we are so proud of you.
Ugh.
I was like, that's been a long time coming. But for
Mm.
many years, my parents would say to me, my mom would say, if you would just spank her, this would all like, what are you doing? So just keep that in mind, everybody. They're watching and they're proud of you. They really are, even the ones who can't quite say it yet.
This podcast is sponsored by First Day Vitamins, the clean, science backed vitamins I actually trust for my family. Over the years, I've learned how important adequate nutrition is, but that can be hard to get in every day, especially with kids. Their needs are constantly changing, and I've realized that I didn't really have a system to cover those gaps. That's what led me to First Day. They're super transparent about ingredients, no added sugars, no artificial dyes, tested for over 200 toxins with the Clean Label Purity Award. But honestly, what sold me is that they actually taste good. I look forward to taking mine, and my kids love theirs too, even my picky eater. What I really love is that First Day makes different formulas for toddlers, kids, teens, and adults. So it's tailored to your life stage. It's just 2 gummy vitamins a day, which makes it easy to stay consistent, and it's genuinely tasty. Over 1 million families use First Day, and they have a 45-day money-back guarantee. For limited time only, our listeners are getting an insane deal. Use code 3 and 30 to get up to 57% off at firstday.com. That's up to 57% off and a free gift with code 3 and 30 at firstday.com. After you purchase, they'll ask where you heard about them. Please support our show and tell them that our show sent you. And then what's your second takeaway for us?
Okay. Second takeaway is it's never too late for a fresh start with your kids after you make a mistake. And this is one of my favorite things to teach about in the book is the power of humility. Humility is literally a superpower, I believe, for parents. And again, a bit of a like misguided hand-me-down belief system that I think many of us inherited of like, no, you be the boss. If your kids may see you being soft or humble or vulnerable, then they're going to take advantage of you. And you got to make sure that like you know what to do at all times and that you appear to be in control and all the things. But actually, what I found after 15 years of doing this work and helping thousands, tens of thousands of parents all over the world now, is the parents who lean into vulnerability and humility, who are willing to admit mistakes or take responsibility for the way that they harmed or did something that caused a reaction in their child or whatever it may be, those are the parents that the children end up softening and being way more likely to take their guidance. And I really believe that's because rules plus relationship equals respect. Rules minus relationship equals rebellion. And when you have that kind of hierarchy of like, I'm the boss, which is the way the autocratic or authoritarian systems work, right? It's like my way or the highway. You do what you're told because I said so. And if you don't, there will be a price to pay. And for many, that was more in the physical department. And for many others, that was more emotional, right? Like, I'm so disappointed in you. Why
Mhm.
can't you be easy like your sister? Or like, wow, wow. Like, just like even the mild disappointment can feel really painful to a child. But really, it's like that system, so to speak, just causes disconnection, and it doesn't actually lend usually to true respect. True respect is when a parent shows up and they're like, hey, I am learning alongside of you. As we often say, we're both just figuring out this thing called life. I'm learning life skills, you're learning life skills. And so when we are able to say to our kids, we're both learning, and I am going to show you the way. I made a mistake. I grabbed your wrist too tight. I write about this in the book.
Mhm.
I grabbed your bicep too tight. Like, there is a story in the book on the internet. You can find it really easy if you Google I left bruises. It's also a story in the book. Or the day I said to my daughter once, can you just stop being you? It was a big mistake moment. And I'm so thankful that I had the tools to say, whoa, that was not about you.
Mhm.
That was wrong. And let me do this makeup and let me redo that. I think in the moment I was feeling so frustrated because you guys were fighting again. And I just wanted to get our frozen yogurt in peace. And that comes down to me. Like, I grew up in a home where shame on you was the statement. My mom still says it even to the dog and my 84-year-old dad if he forgets to put the liner in when he takes out the trash. Shame on you, George. It's like instilled in my nervous system, right? And I've spent 10 years now unwinding that and unlearning it. But back then, that was 10 years ago now. But to be able to say that was a mistake and it just, you did not deserve that. And it's not true. There's nothing wrong with you. You're learning how to get along and fight fairly with your brother. And I'm learning how to be frustrated and angry and irritated because I'm human without hurting myself or others. So we're in this
Mhm.
together.
Wendy, I so appreciate your vulnerability. My favorite part of the book, the most touching part of the book, was when you told the story about the bruises, leaving bruises on your son's arm. And I'm just so grateful when parenting educators don't cover that stuff up or erase their part of that story
Yeah.
because you hadn't intended to hurt him. You just were frustrated and you grabbed him and put him in the bath. And then the next day you noticed some bruises that, oh my gosh, that's how hard I grabbed him.
Yeah.
And went into the shame spiral, of course, but then decided to ask for a redo with your kid. And I thought that was so beautiful that you didn't just live in that shame, but that you went to him and said, "It wasn't okay how I grabbed you last night," and talked to him about what happened versus just I think sometimes when we're ashamed, we just don't wanna address it with our kids because we're ashamed, because we know what we did was wrong. But that leaves them confused, wondering if what happened was their fault. The most humble, beautiful, healing thing you can do is say to your kid, I screwed up big time. And what I said to you, or how I treated you, or how I touched you is never okay. And the
Oh,
life lesson you're teaching them about how people they love should treat them is huge. And the lesson you're teaching them about having humility and saying you're sorry is huge. Like there's so much learning that happens there
it's
that
true.
I'm just so grateful that you told that story because I think a lot of
Mm,
parenting educators wouldn't.
yeah.
They'd be embarrassed to admit their lowest points.
Yeah. That has been a story that continues to this day. Just get so much gratitude for telling it and just to make sure I go one level deeper with it so people really feel seen. Is it wasn't just like an accident. Like, it wasn't just like, whoops. I remember in the moment, Rachel, I remember the knee jerk. And this is what happens to parents when you have the nervous system and this is why I say it's knee jerk, because you literally feel like you're out of control. But I remember the thought of, I'm going to squeeze a little harder here so he feels this. And
Mhm.
it was a choice, right? It wasn't just a whoops. As I was carrying him, he was like kicking. So I just want to add even that extra layer of vulnerability is that it was an air quotes choice, but it was a paved nervous system that's how you get someone to do what you want. You overpower them, you force them into submission, or you guilt or intimidate, right? Like the way I grew up in our home, like that was just kind of like if you're a strong leader, like you don't let anyone mess with you. And so, yeah, that it was a very pivotal moment. And I think when you are able to say to your kids, whoops, that didn't go as planned, you didn't deserve that, but here I, as your teacher, as your model child, I'm going to show you what it looks like to get it wrong and then practice doing what I'm teaching you to do out in the world. So there's so much gold in those moments that actually teach children more than thinking we just have to be perfect.
Hmm.
So,
It's
yeah,
so
it was a
true.
pivotal moment for us.
And I think I was gonna say every mom, maybe it's not every mom. This mom, me,
Mm,
I can think of specific moments that make my stomach drop in my parenting
right.
journey where
Yeah.
I was too harsh. I can think of those moments, and the to me, that's good news because the fact that I can think of them means that they weren't the norm. You
Yeah.
know?
Yep.
And so, moms out there, if you're listening and you can think of a handful of times, maybe even today, or things that happened, it's probably not your norm. And
Yeah.
you can say that you are sorry and repair, and you're still a good mom. And good
Heck yeah.
moms make mistakes. And I'm just so grateful that you shared that story.
Like,
Yes, yes.
one more little bit about Taryn that night, or not that night, it was different, but it was the same season of life. I used to buy this big Burt's Bees, maybe, organic bubble bath. And I remember it was such a splurge. And the kids, when they were little, would pour too
Oh, yeah.
much.
Oh, yeah.
And I would tell him, right? I came in one day and he had poured the whole thing and there was bubbles everywhere. And I screamed so loud at him that it made him cry. He is my kid that's like that, right? The other kid is like, she puffs up. This one, like my little one who's now 6'2", 15 years old, he would cry. And I saw him and I was like, oh God, what have I done? I walked away, went into my room. I think I cried for a minute myself. And then I came back and I was like, I'm sorry, you didn't deserve that. And he looked right at me at like 4 years old, Rachel, and he said, Mama, it's okay. Everyone makes mistakes.
Mhm.
I write about that one in the book. I'm like, okay, I'm doing something right. Because
Totally.
good kids make mistakes. Good kids have imperfect relationships with their siblings. Good parents make mistakes. Good parents have reactive moments. Good parents just know how to repair and learn from the mistake, and they're willing to do the work. And that's what
Mhm.
changes legacies.
Oh, so beautiful. And then what's your 3rd and final takeaway for us?
Third is it's never too late for a fresh start with your family culture and routines of connection. So, towards the end of the book, I do give some different rhythms that you can get into to connect with your kids. And I will say on this part of it, I think routine moments of connection for me are I think it's the ones that are like, read with your kids, right? Like give them gems, genuine encounter moments, which is like moments when you actually stop what you're doing and focus on them. And like, especially in the world of where we're so distracted these days, those are all great. Like take your kids out for special time, right? Like those moments of connection are really great. But I'm telling you, the deepest moments of connection where your child feels your unconditional love and they feel respected by you and they feel like they can trust you, which always is going to lead to better behavior, is in those moments of connection when they are in their worst moment, right? When they've made
Mhm.
a mistake, when you found out they cheated on a test, when you found out there might have been some vaping or drinking, or they pushed a kid off a play structure and fractured their wrist. These may or may not be stories in the book, but like everything is my personal stories, I will add. But like those are the moments that when you learn to compassionately discipline and let a kid know you're not in trouble. You're not a bad kid. I'm here with you. You're not alone. You make sense to me. And of course, you're going to be held responsible because everyone makes mistakes. I'm going to teach you the life skills. But those moments, those are like the most serious moments of connection that will change your entire relationship with your child. So the
Mhm.
little, the rhythms that I give you in the back of the book are awesome to create your culture, but that if you can really nail and be willing to replace punishment with compassionate discipline and then get into the rhythm, routine of just staying connected when your child needs to be disciplined, it just feels so good. And then discipline doesn't become a drag. It's like
Mhm.
it's just another thing you do. Like you breathe, you cook, you eat, you hug, you discipline. It's not like this awful thing anymore.
Mhm. This type of parenting eventually becomes who you are. I feel like when I started with my, more intentional parenting work where I started reading books and learning about positive parenting, and I love that you call positive parenting powerful parenting. It was a lot of conscious effort and thought,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
then now it's just who I am. And I think that's what you've emphasized here is that it becomes routine the more that you do it, and you can fresh start kind of your defaults and turn them into routine parenting that is more peaceful and connected and powerful and relationship based with time and with effort. So I
It's
think that's a
true.
beautiful note to end on for moms who may feel like, but I'm still making so many mistakes. I'm still having so many moments that I need to have redos for. And this all feels so unnatural to me. It gets easier. Something we
Yeah.
talk about in my self-assured motherhood program, one of our kind of key quotes is the Ralph Waldo Emerson quote, that which we persist in doing becomes easier to do. Not that the nature of the thing has changed, but that your power to do has increased. And I think that captures perfectly your point here that it gets easier because you're getting stronger.
Yeah. And I think your nervous system is over time, you stack your successes and it starts to realize, oh, it actually is safe to step to the
Mhm.
side. It actually is safe to be humble and vulnerable and not know the answer. Like, but in the beginning, your body is just like your nervous system reacts to what it's been conditioned to see as safe, right? And so many of us who grew up in the autocratic systems, safety is overpowering or forcing or yelling or snapping or grabbing. And so it just takes time to prove to it, okay, I'm going to try this new strategy. And I might fail twice. And then the third time it clicks. And I realize, oh, I can say this. And the kid, their shoulders melt instead of like puffing up and yeah. And your body starts to realize, okay, this is safe. And then 10, 15 years, sometimes sooner, but for many of us, it's quite some time. You just start to realize, oh, I'm living in safety instead of
Mhm.
like fight, flight, or freeze all the time. And that is
Yes.
indicative of a healed nervous system.
Absolutely. Well, Wendy, this has been such a empowering conversation. I know there's many moms listening who feel like they need a fresh start, who want a fresh start. Where can they get your book?
Yes. Anywhere books are sold, Amazon, Barnes& and Noble, bookshop.org is great if you want to support your local bookstore. That's who they pull from. And then once you do order, come on over to freshstartfamilyonline.com/book. And we'd love to give you some extra goodies if you tell us where you bought the book and your order number. And we have some really great little bonuses available there. Come find me, Fresh Start Wendy, over on Instagram. We're the Fresh Start Family Show podcast that Rachel has been on before. We have a great episode with you, Rachel. And lastly, I would say just if you want to drop straight into a free workshop with me, I have an interactive workshop called 3 Secrets to Thriving with Strong-Willed Kids. And that's freshstartfamilyonline.com/secrets.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much, Wendy, for all of your work and for
Thank
coming on
you.
3 and 30 today. We really appreciate you.
Thank you, Rachel, for having me. This has been so much fun.
What a great conversation. I'm so grateful to Wendy for her generosity and her willingness to share even the hardest parts of her story, and for the reminder that none of us is too far gone for a fresh start. So let's recap. Wendy's first takeaway is that it is never too late for a fresh start on the parenting cycles you were handed. The way you were raised became your nervous system's default, and most of us never had to consciously choose those patterns because they were just there, baked in, and automatic. But just as you'd never keep using a phone from 20 years ago when better options exist, you don't have to hold on to parenting tools that cause more pain than connection. And updating your approach isn't a betrayal of the people who raised you, it's a gift to the people you're raising. Wendy's second takeaway is that it's never too late for a fresh start with your kids after you make a mistake. Humility, Wendy says, is a superpower. And when you go back to your child and say, that wasn't okay and you didn't deserve that, you're not showing weakness. You're building the kind of relationship where your child trusts you, feels safe with you, and learns firsthand what it looks like to take responsibility for how we treat the people we love. And Wendy's third takeaway is that it's never too late for a fresh start with your family culture and your routines of connection. The moments that most shape your child are often the ones where they've gotten something wrong and you stay connected to them anyway, meeting them with compassion instead of punishment, and building something in them that lasts long after they've grown up and left your home. If anything from today's conversation is stirring in you, I'd love for you to get Wendy's new book, Fresh Start Your Family, in your hands. It's so good, and you can find it anywhere books are sold. To every mom listening who's carrying a moment that she wishes she could take back, the fact that it bothers you says everything about the kind of mom you are. Good moms notice when they get it wrong, and the repair is never too late, whether it happened yesterday or years ago. You can always turn towards your child and start fresh. As always, my friend, I'm rooting for you, and I hope you have a beautiful week with your family.